Hey everyone, so in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys my experience traveling to Croatia with EF Ultimate Break on their Cruise Croatia tour, and dare I say it was my favorite tour yet, and this was my 9th tour that I've been on with EF, and oh my gosh, I cannot wait to recap it for you guys. If you guys have not gone on a trip with EF before and are looking to get a discount, I do have a discount code with them. It is UA amandamonroee 100 to get $100 off your first trip. You can apply this code at checkout to get your discount, or if you click the link that's down below, purchase your trip through the link, it'll automatically apply the discount at checkout. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Like I said, this is my 9th tour with EF, and I have had this tour on my list for so long. I have looked at it for a while and have been looking forward to this one all year. I went to Scandinavia earlier this summer, but this one has been the top of mind. I've been so excited because you go from split to splits and you're traveling by yacht, seeing different spots in the country. So I was very intrigued by that. So flew into Split and checked into our hotel, showered, rested a little bit, and then we had our welcome dinner. And our welcome dinner was actually at a really nice spot by the marina. Super good. We had a seafood risotto. Started off with some aperitivo, we had some wine. It was a very delicious welcome dinner and got to meet people in our group. It was so fabulous. And then afterwards, our tour director took us on a little evening stroll, Split in Old Town, and we walked over and got some gelato, and we did go to this really popular gelato spot that she recommended, and the line was so long and there were 2 different spots for us to get in line too, so it was that popular. And yeah, it was delicious gelato. And after we had that, we headed back to our hotel and got some sleep since we were very jet lagged and needed some sleep. So the next morning we had our first full day in Split, and we started off with a walking tour. So we walked around the city, explored a bit, and then we had some free time after our walking tour. So on this day, there was an optional excursion to do the Krka waterfalls. So us and a couple other girls on our trip, we decided to go to the beach. It was one of the popular beaches in Split, and I'm so glad we did this. It was so nice and a great way to spend our day in Split, especially because it was so hot. So afterwards, we went back to our hotel and grabbed our swimsuits since we didn't bring them. I went to the beach, and then we ended up getting a cabana too and swam a bit and spent most of our afternoon there. And then after spending time at the beach for a few hours, went to go get some dinner. So we went to this dinner spot that our tour director recommended, and they have homemade pasta, and it was so delicious. It was a very good dinner spot. So we all had dinner, got some gelato before heading to bed. And then the next day, another optional excursion was going to Bosnia as a day trip. And it does take about a couple hours to get to Bosnia. Plus, with the border control, that takes some time as well because they have to go through all your passports and all that. So it did take some time, but luckily we got to sleep on the bus. And everyone in our group did go. They do say that Bosnia, I guess, is like the hottest country in Europe. And if that's true, they were not lying. It was so hot. The sun was blazing and on you, but I'm really glad we went still. Such a cool city and country to experience, and very different from, you know, Croatia, just with the different influences of that culture. So I'm really glad we got to experience that. And while we're there, we did a walking tour, and then we had some free time. So we got to see the bridge, we got to have some delicious food and see a Turkish house, and got to explore the city of Mostar. So despite the heat, it was definitely worth it. I loved Bosnia so much. So I highly recommend if you guys are considering doing it. Just beware, depending on what time of year you go, especially if you go beyond June, it will be blazing hot, but I feel like it's definitely worth it to go and see the country. We weren't there all day, so we did get back to Split around, I think, 6 o'clock. So we came back, showered, rested for a bit, and then we went out this night, and we did go walk around and go to a bar. And then we went out to one of the clubs. We went to Central, and the cover was expensive this night, especially because it was so busy. And our tour director did say that the covers really are based off demand, and this specific night, I guess there was like a famous singer in town, so that drew in a lot of other Europeans too. So Our cover was like 30 euro to go into this club, but it was really our only night there, so we did want to go and experience it. And luckily we did have a good time and it was fun, but it was very pricey to go in. Hopefully it's not that expensive whenever you guys go if you're planning on going, but it was very fun. Oh, but also before we went to Central, our tour director recommended this like fast food place. Is called Sexy Cow and it was so good. So if you guys get to go, I recommend it. It was delicious. They're like wraps, but like burgers, basically wrapped in tortilla type stuff. It was so delicious, so I highly recommend Sexy Cow. Very good. So we had that before going out. This was our time when we were in Split. So the very next day we were going to board our yacht, and from my understanding we are on land for the first couple days because if people's luggage gets lost or if people's flights get delayed, which is perfect, which I'm really glad they do before we set sail, because there was even someone on our trip whose luggage got lost and did not make it to her until the very morning we were leaving. Luckily she was able to get it right before we set sail, but that's why I believe we're in Split on land in a hotel for a couple days before we start our cruise. The very next day we were starting our cruise and we were so excited to finally begin. So we boarded our cruise I think at around 1 o'clock. I think we put our luggage on there around 10, and then a couple hours later we were able to leave and set sail. So during that couple hours of just walking around Split, we got to go to the market and pick up any other things that we wanted. So you could pick up some extra floaties, towels, or whatever. Go to the ATM. We did find this place on TikTok called Puffy in Split, and they make pancakes and it's like different toppings you can put on it. It was so delicious. So we did have that little treat as well. But afterwards, we went on our boat and we were greeted with yummy tequila sunrises, got to meet the crew, and it was so fun. We got our room assignments, and me and my roommate, we were actually roomed below deck. So that was a cool experience. And honestly, our rooms, I did do the plus tour and our rooms were better than I was expecting. They were a lot more spacious than I was anticipating, and the AC was blasting. It was definitely a comfortable experience for sure. Our bathroom was a good size. So there was even someone on our tour who said they've been on cruises and our room was bigger than the room that they've had on a cruise. So I've never been on a cruise, but that's what they said. But yeah, I was on the plus tour, and I think the biggest difference based off the other people who were on the essential tour at the same time that we met up with, I feel like the biggest difference is the boat. So you are gonna get a nicer boat if you are on the plus tour. When we set sail, we did have a short little swim stop. I think it was about 45 minutes. So we got to lay out or go in the water if we wanted to on our way to Hvar. So it was so nice getting to be on the tanning beds on the upper deck. We did make our stop in Hvar. We got in around 7 p.m. So when we got there, we did go to dinner, and it was a really nice dinner that our tour director recommended. It was a place she offered us to go to, and we ended up all going together. And then afterwards, we did have a walking tour of the city. And after our walking tour, everyone went back. And what's really cool on these boats, you have happy hour every night and you just have your drinks on tab. So it's really fun, and you have your music, and there's a speaker on the boat. So our tour director made a playlist on Spotify, and we got to all add our songs on there. So it was really fun. So we all had some good music on there. Just got to have happy hour and got to pregame a little bit before we all went out, and we all were gonna go out to this club that our tour director recommended, and she said it was a place where they play throwback music, and she said all her tour groups love it, and I'm so glad she recommended it because personally that's my favorite type of music. I love music that you can just sing to, so I was very excited. So after having happy hour on the boat, we all went out to this club. I believe it was called Nautica. And yeah, it was so much fun. We were there for hours and just had the best time. They even did this shot show with hundreds of Jaeger bombs. It was just insane. It was very cool and a really good time. And then afterwards, we went back on our boat. I think we stopped for croissants and pizza on our way back. It was also so nice because Hvar is just so tiny, and just our boat was just on the harbor, very close. So we just walk on over to your boat. And one thing that you guys have to know is all the boats are lined up. So for instance, our boat would be number 5 in line. So you would have to cross each different yacht to get into your boat. and that's just like how it is. So they'll all park against each other, and you just like will have to cross over each yacht to get into yours. Just something to know. It was an experience for sure. And note that, especially for luggage, pack light on this trip because of that. You do not want to be having so much luggage when you're gonna have to cross over all these yachts to get your luggage on board. So pack light for sure. But anyways, we ended our night, went to bed, and the next morning we had our next swim stop. So our tour director always told us, like, just make sure you're back by 5 a.m. because the boat will leave at 5:30. So it was so interesting because you'd like be asleep and then you can hear the boat like start taking off at like 5:30 a.m. So that's when the boat would leave and take off. And then breakfast every morning was between 8:30 to 9:30. Honestly, most mornings I skip breakfast, and this is another thing of why I really enjoy this tour, because it wasn't so go go go. It did feel really like a vacation, because sometimes you're like, okay, I have to get up early, get some breakfast before we do the next thing. But this tour, it was nice because I knew I would be able to wake up kind of when I wanted, swim when I wanted, and like we would have our meal on the boat. So all the meals on the boat that we had were breakfast and lunch, and then we had 2 dinners as well included on the boat. So that was super nice. So if I went to bed late and slept in, it was nice because I would wake up, do our swim stop, and then I'd be like, well, lunch is in an hour and a half or whatever. Because sometimes I would wake up at like 10. By the time we would get to our swim stop would be around 10 o'clock. So I'd normally like wake up around our swim stop time, put on my swimsuit, go outside, tan, go swimming. It was so much fun. And then our lunch would be around like 12 o'clock. So, and then we would have lunch, and the food on board was so good. We were all like, I don't know how our chef cooks up such delicious meals for all of us in that tiny little kitchen, but all the food was so delicious, and it was just a great experience. It was so fun. All of our meals were 3 courses. So we would have a starter, we would have our main course and dessert, and then plus the bar was open, and after lunch also had coffee and tea, so it was very nice. So on this day after our swim stop, we did have a little stop on Milette National Park. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But we did go to this national park, and the water was so beautiful, so turquoise. There was this area to swim, go kayaking, people rode bikes, and then afterwards me and my friend were like, oh, we found a spot where it was like a cafe swim stop, so like you could literally go swimming, but it was a bar, and that's where we spent most of our time, and it was so much fun. So we grabbed drinks, went swimming in the ocean, and it was so fun, and I was like, yep, I'm glad I did this. It was so nice. So we did that, and we were like, honestly, we wish we spent our time there, because it definitely was a little bit of a hike to, when you guys go to Milette National Park, you will probably want to wear comfortable shoes, because it is a little bit of a hike to get to the main little lake area where they'll take you. We were like, we wish we would have just stayed at the little cafe bar and little swim stop, because we would have enjoyed just honestly swimming there and having drinks there, because it was really, really nice. But yeah, so we did that. And then this night is one of the nights where we had our captain's dinner included. So we got to have dinner with the captain. And our dessert this night, everyone was like so obsessed with. We had chocolate lava cake with ice cream, and everyone like dreamed about this dessert after this dinner. It was so good. Every meal, like I said, was delicious, but everyone dreamed about this dessert. It was phenomenal. And this night was really fun too, because at the Milette, bit of a sleepy island, like our tour director said, so there was not many clubs to go to. So this was fun because we spent our night on the boat doing karaoke, playing card games, really getting to know everyone on our tour. So it was really fun bonding with everyone, doing karaoke and playing games. So it was a really, really fun night. Went to bed, and then we started our next day. So our next day we had another swim stop for about an hour and a half, and I was so excited for Dubrovnik. So when we got to Dubrovnik, we did have a walking tour, so we walked around the city a bit, and again, it was really, really hot. So just keep in mind, it is very hot in the summer, so pack your liquid IV. Just be very mindful of the weather. So yeah, we had our walking tour, and after our walking tour we had some free time, so our tour director recommended us going to this spot where you can see some views overlooking the whole city, the city walls and all of that, and also Booza Bar, which is this bar that's literally on a cliff, and you can even swim. It was so cool. So after, we did get some gelato, and then we went to that point where you got to see the really cool views, and that was really cool seeing it from that high up. Seeing Dubrovnik from up there, it really made a lot more sense to me of where the city walls began and started. It was very cool to see it from that view. And then afterwards we got some pizza where they recommended, they said it was like the best pizza spot in Dubrovnik, and honestly it was the best pizza I've ever had in Europe. It even beat the pizza I've had in Italy. It was so good. I don't remember the name of it, but it was really good. And I'm sure if you guys go on a yacht tour, I'm sure they'll recommend this pizza spot, but it was delicious. So we did have pizza, and then we went to Bar, and Bar was the place that is on a cliff, and it was so much fun. It was definitely one of my highlights of the day, especially with it being so hot. It was so nice to swim in the ocean on that cliff and lay out and get some drinks. It was just so cool, and definitely a highlight of our experience that day. And afterwards we made it back to our boat around sunset, so it was nice because we got to take some pictures on top of our boat at sunset, and it was just so beautiful that night. And this night our tour director also had a night where she got a bus for us to go to Revelin, which is essentially this club in a castle. I think it's rated top 4 clubs in Europe, and it's literally in like this 500-year-old fortress. So I was very excited to see it. She even said like the music is, you know, not my type of vibe personally. It's like more techno EDM vibe, but she said just go, especially when else you're gonna say you partied in a 500-year-old fortress. So after having happy hour on the boat, we all took this panorama bus to Revelin, and it was very cool to see it. It was just such an experience, very cool. And afterwards we did go to this other club called Elix, and that one was so much fun because they played throwbacks and the music was just so much better. So we definitely had a really great time at that other club, and afterwards went home and just had a really great night. So it was such a fun night. And the next morning we were headed off to Montenegro, and I believe this is a newer excursion that they have with the Cruise Croatia tour, and I'm all about seeing new countries. So I was very excited to go to Montenegro. This one was also about like 2 hours to get there. A little bit shorter than Bosnia though. Passport control was way quicker. So when we got there, we did do a little walking tour. We got to go to this little island and this church that was on the island. And after walking around Old Town, we did have some free time to explore. So we did grab some lunch. And since it was so hot, we were very excited to go to one of the beaches. And this beach was like one of the coolest beaches ever. This beach like had these beautiful mountains right behind it. It was so stunning, beautiful beach, and that was definitely the highlight of our day at Montenegro. It was so beautiful. So Montenegro I definitely recommend as well. Super fun getting to experience a different culture, and the beach was so beautiful. So I do recommend going to Montenegro. And I actually got my nights mixed up for your reference. Montenegro night is the night we went out to the clubs and stuff. We didn't go out the other night, and I remember now because we had to be up early for Montenegro. Like I think we had to be up at like 6 a.m. and then they did give us breakfast on the way there, so we got to sleep on the bus. I didn't. I honestly watched Love Island on the way there. I actually went out the night after Montenegro. So my days are backwards. So the next morning we had our next swim stop, and this was my favorite swim stop that we had on our way to Cula. And oh my gosh, the water was just so teal, so beautiful. The mountains, it was just stunning. So I feel like we had a really long swim stop here too. So tan, swam, it was so much fun. And then we had lunch, and this was like one of my favorite days of the whole trip too, because that swim stop was so much fun. In Cula we had a quick little walking tour, and after our walking tour we got some gelato, of course, and then we went wine tasting, and the wine tasting was so pretty. Looking over everything, it was so stunning, gorgeous. We did get a little charcuterie board. We did have one little con during this wine tasting. There was wasps everywhere. This was definitely the low of the trip. At the end of the trip when we were doing our highs and lows, this was my personal low, was the wasps at wine tasting, but hopefully it's not always there. But the wine tasting, other than the wasps, it was super nice, and I just love that experience. It was very cool to do. And then after wine tasting, we did go to this tower bar, which was so cool. Again, was like this bar in a fortress, and you literally have to climb up a ladder to go to the top of the bar, and you have this beautiful view. And they literally have like this rope thing to get the drinks up to you, and it was so cool. And just the whole vibe of that whole night was just so nice, especially at sunset, chatting with our whole group, and it was just so nice. And that whole day was my favorite, like from the swim stop to the wine tasting to that tower bar. It was such a cool experience and just a really cool thing to do. And then afterwards, we did grab a little small bite of dinner and then we headed back to our boat. And then the next day we were on our way to Makarska. We did have a barbecue and this day was really nice too because it felt like a vacation day. Like it was such a slow day, really just like swim stop and beach, which was really nice. So especially since we didn't have any walking tours or anything, so we did get to do a little nice swim stop, had lunch on the boat, and then in Makarska we'd have a full beach day, and that was really nice because we got to lay out, work on our tan some more, and then go into the ocean, swim for a bit, and then we got to come back and go on the boat. And on the boat we did have a barbecue dinner. That was really nice, and we did have a white party, so everyone wore white, and we got to take some pictures up on the boat at sunset, which is really fun. And we did some more karaoke, which was a really great time. One of my favorite nights as well, doing karaoke with everyone, having happy hour on the boat before we went out for our last night. It was so much fun. It was definitely like my favorite club that we had gone to the entire time in Croatia. Like not only was it in a cave, but the music was so great and it was just great vibes being with our whole tour group too, especially knowing it was our last night going out. So after that, we headed back to our boat, and for our last day, we were headed back to Split. So before going to Split, we did do another swim stop, our very last one. We had lunch on the boat and then we made it back to Split. And I feel like by this point, most people were very tired and it was a very hot day in Split. I feel like it was very, very humid, way more than our beginning of our trip there. So a lot of people relaxed a bit. We only walked around for a little. We packed up that night. So we ended off our trip by having our farewell dinner, and our farewell dinner was very good as well. Got some gelato and then went back to bed early, especially since we had to be up at like 3 a.m. for early flights home. But it was truly just the most fun I've ever had on a trip. Actually, I mean, it's very hard to say because I have out of my 9 trips, I've had incredible experiences on all of them and have made just great relationships with so many people on my trip and great memories, and I've had so much fun. But this tour was so special. I loved it so much. I love this itinerary specifically. Like, when else are you going to be on a yacht sailing Croatia for a week and having that experience of being on that boat? So that definitely was so much fun, and it definitely moved to my #1 spot of my favorite tours that I've done with EF. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer them. If you guys are interested in getting a discount for yourselves, you guys can use UA Amanda Monroe 100 to get $100 off your first trip, or by booking directly with the link down below. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye guys.